But first, the latest on the negotiations over the bailout bill. Newsweek's Howard Fineman is an NBC News political analyst, and Norah O'Donnell is MSNBC's chief Washington correspondent. And Howard, at this very moment, the Senate, the Democrats are preparing to have a news conference to hammer John McCain. What have you learned about this?
Well, I've heard about what they're going to hammer on, and they're going to hammer on McCain, and they're going to say it's McCain's involvement and it's the Republicans' recalcitrance that led to this deal to at least temporarily fall apart. 1 o'clock this afternoon, leaders on the Hill thought they had a deal with Paulson, led by the Democrats and moderate Republicans. They go into this meeting behind the scenes. McCain is there supposedly to help seal the deal. Instead, McCain's presence, I think, in part helps ignite the fury of conservative Republicans, especially in the House. And John Boehner, Republican leader in the House, good friend of John McCain's, instead is the guy who, I'm told, who kind of blows up the meeting and says, my people will not go for this deal. And Harry Reid's going to come out in a few minutes, I'm told, and say precisely that, accuse the Republicans of playing politics, accuse John McCain of messing things up by parachuting into the situation, and expressing the fear that this is all a plot by Republicans to give John McCain a chance to bring his own party together. I think they're giving the Republicans more credit than they deserve.
And Norah, what the congressional House Republicans are looking for is cover. And until John McCain is willing to come out and say, yes, I support this deal, they don't have this cover. They're welcome to run wild.
These Republicans didn't like this bill from the beginning. They view it as a $700 billion bailout, a bailout of Wall Street instead of helping Main Street. They don't like this stuff. So then McCain comes today in order to close the deal and meets with John Boehner in the Republican conference, and then they come out and say there's no deal. I mean, think about sort of the theatrics of that. And so the Democrats, as Howard points out, are going to lay this squarely on McCain. McCain made a huge gamble, and he doubled down on this, and it's not yet clear if it's going to work in his favor, because now it looks like the Republicans are the ones blowing this up. And if they blow it up, they may face the blame for it.
But it's the House Republicans, because McCain's in a box on the Senate side already, because John Harwood was reporting that something like 40 Republican senators support the agreement.
And I spoke with Senator Shelby, the leading Republican on the Banking Committee. He told me he opposed this bill. But when I asked him, do you have enough votes to sink it, he admitted no. So it may go still through the Senate. It's the House that's the real problem.
Well, the other big problem is the White House. George Bush has no credibility or clout left on the Hill, even with his own Republican putative allies. They dissed and ignored the Republicans in Congress for 7 years. Now they're being paid back for that. As Norah was pointing out, they're populist young Republican conservatives, especially in the House, who philosophically don't go along with this bailout and who also don't like being told what to do by their own leadership, and even, if not especially, John McCain, who many of them distrusted to begin with. So McCain parachuted right into the middle of a firefight within his own party. As I say, there are a lot of Democrats who think that this is somehow a grand plot to allow John McCain to be the great unifier of his own party in the end and bring them all to the table. I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, we should also point out that John McCain is unwilling to say tonight whether or not he's going to attend this debate tomorrow. And doesn't that put him something in a corner, given that a week ago all we heard from John McCain is, I've laid out a plan, I'm the decisive leader here, and tonight he's not willing to decide, at least not yet, whether he's heard enough after a White House meeting with all the principals, whether he's heard enough to go forward to Mississippi tomorrow.
Well, John McCain's advisors will say that he's putting country first, and he'll decide as soon as there is a deal done, and that he's still holding out hope that there's a deal. But tomorrow is going to be another fascinating day, just like today was, because Barack Obama says, I'm going to that debate. I don't care if I'm holding the town hall by myself or if I just do a one-on-one with Jim Lehrer. I'm going to the debate. So we're going to have a very interesting scenario. The Commission on Presidential Debates says there will be a debate. The networks have sent their correspondents, their anchors like Chris Matthews, to go cover this debate. Haley Barbour, the Republican governor of Mississippi, said, my University of Mississippi has spent $5 or $6 million. We're having that debate. The only person that says he's not having the debate is John McCain.
Well, there's a little bit of a risk for Barack Obama, though. In the off chance that somehow a deal materializes that's ready to be inked tomorrow night around the time the debate starts, Obama might want to be here for that. But I think the likelihood of that happening is very, very low.
Well, because the Democrats
control the Congress. They can take a recess for 6 hours if they want.
Well, my understanding is that the Obama campaign, at least Obama, is staying in Washington tonight for that very reason. But again, I mean, what's the play for Barack Obama in all of this? Does he now come out and say, look, we don't have a deal yet and we need to keep working hard? Or does he start at some point tomorrow and start criticizing John McCain and say, look, John McCain had an hour. He heard all the all the agreements. He heard all of his principles being met in his legislation. It's time to debate.
Well, I think what the Democratic leaders are going to do when they come out here in a little while, and we'll see that press conference, by attacking John McCain and saying that John McCain complicated rather than solved the situation, they give Barack Obama room to step back. And I think that's really what Obama wants to do, because he's thinking about what happens if he becomes president. He wants a little leeway here to manage the thing the way he wants to. He doesn't necessarily want to have direct ownership of the deal that's being put together up here, if you think about it, because if he comes in as President of the United States, he wants to be able to set his own course to the extent he can.
In network interviews tonight, Barack Obama once again made the case that, look, if you're our President of the United States, you have to be able to multitask, and this debate is only 90 minutes. It's not been a question yet that McCain has answered. Why can't he do both? Why can't he go to the debate or stay here all in Washington, go to the debate, and then return to Washington? It's a question for both of them.
He'd have a more compelling case to make, McCain would, if there was actually progress being made. Well, but just the opposite is happening. Rather than sealing the deal, he's unraveling what had happened up to this point.
That's the political problem for him. If Americans get the sense that at a certain point today, before John McCain got involved, they were coming through with this agreement that all the principles, you had Senator Corker, you had Senator Bennett, Republicans were saying, yeah, we agree with Chris Dodd. Yes, this is coming together. All the principles are being met. John McCain comes in. They go to the White House, and suddenly, no, Boehner is still out there saying, no deal, this thing is chaos.
Well, McCain is paying for two things. He's paying for the fact that he's never been popular at the new, younger, populist House Republican grassroots of his own party. They didn't like him. They still don't like him. He's also paying for the fact that George Bush, his president and his ally at this point, has no clout within his own party. He's at the end of his term. People are tired of him. He doesn't have credibility with his own folks. George Bush is not able to call House members in one by one and say, you're going to do what we tell you to do because John McCain and I want that to happen. George Bush isn't interested, and he doesn't have the authority politically to do it.
I think there's another interesting thing that is under all of this, and that if John McCain does not attend tomorrow night's debate, does that then push the first presidential debate to the night of what was supposed to be the first vice presidential debate? Sarah Palin has given an interview to Katie Couric where people are raising eyebrows about some of the questions and how she answered those questions and whether the McCain campaign really wants to have that vice presidential debate. The McCain campaign says this is baloney, this talk about all this, but it is out there, and it is something that Democrats are already talking about.